So here I am with a couple of medieval reenactors, and they have their favourite weapons, which are polearms. And on the left, I see something, it's a bit like a glaive, it's a bit like a rancer, but possibly I would call that a fourchard. Is that what you would call it?
Exactly.
A fourchard.
Fourchard.
Okay, and you've been fighting with it and experimenting with it, and you've drawn a conclusion about how it was used.
Practically, the hook, the side hook, would be to lock the other blade.
Okay, so one man armed with the fourchard traps an opponent's weapon, and then a friend standing next to him comes up and finishes the opponent off.
Or else the same person will take the distance.
There are some who will tell you that a polearm with this head is called a glaive, which is fine, and some who will say that to be a fourchard, a weapon has to have a concave cutting edge. But some apply the same name to ones that curve a fair bit further, and then others will say, no, that's not a fourchard, that's a hook or a bill or a guisarme. But others will say that anything with a hook on it is a guisarme, so if we go back to the glaive and add a hook, that's a guisarme. But others will say, no, it's a glaive guisarme. But if so, then what's this, which is a pretty common shape? And what about the many bizarre variations? Does each need a separate name? But if you have a hook like this facing forwards, then you have a fourchard. Or is that a glaive fourchard? Because some would say that to be a fourchard, the whole thing should be a big fork-like tool. But if the concave edge thing is true, then what's this? A fourchard? There are so many variations on all these shapes incorporating bits of each other, and some of them are just bats, that you're free to make up your own, which I'm pretty sure is what they did back in the day. You'll notice that even in this collection of weapons all from the same place and time, there is variation. That plainer one there, you could say that that's perhaps a glaive, but that one there's got the hook going the other way, so what's that? There are an awful lot of names for polearms, but there are vastly more shapes of polearms than there are names, so either we shouldn't be too precious about which name we use, or we have to agree that most polearms have no name, which is daft. Here we see two men fighting as individuals and not as men in a large formation. They're leading with the butt end, trying to get into the perfect position for a swipe with the big end. The real weapon sometimes had spikes on the butt end, but the main fighting end is the cutty, hooky, slicey end. You see that they use footwork to get out of trouble, and you can't do that in a big formation. If they get the head of the weapon caught, they can usually pretty quickly extricate themselves. These men are wearing nice handmade costumes and no armour, so they are being very gentle with each other.
Who has whose weapon locked here? Because each of you has the other...
We're both locked.
Right.
We're both locked, so we cannot really move.
Actually, I believe that I have the advantage because I can
push the advantage.
Open his chest to my opponent's blade, to my colleague's blade.
And he can still attack me on the foot. For example, he got my distance. Or else, like this, I'm hooked with the bill. And practically, he can still guide with his momentum and attack me. If I locked him with this side, like this, I have my advantage.
Actually, I feel off balance here.
Okay.
I still can go.
Is it too dangerous to use the hook?
For sure, for sure.
So here's another trap.
Exactly. But like this, I still can get my advantage a certain way. And the blade is out of my hand at my distance. And again, if we're aligned, my buddies would have hit him with
a late 14th century outfit, while this is well placed in the 15th century.
I'm more in early Renaissance.
Yes.
Okay, so these are two. That's the disclaimer.
Okay, but they still haven't invented pockets. Come on, people, how difficult is a pocket? It's not that difficult.
You'd be surprised.
So, start moving. Armia battaglia. It's like that. We're trying to get the advantage on the opponent. We're one behind the other.
I'm standing low, he's standing high. So if I trap someone, I can push his polearm down and he takes him out.
To step in and take out your mate's foe like this would, I think, require either a very loose formation or only the front rank really fighting properly. From the second rank you'd seldom have the reach. Now a swordsman will use this very pretty sword to show us the hopelessness of taking on a line of men with polearms. If you imagine a long line of halberdiers, then you can see that the chance of closing with one without getting stabbed by another is bordering on nil. They have many hooks and the like to snag you, and once you're snagged, you're fairly doomed. Or is it a bardiche? That's a Vulge.